Before we go into the breakouts, we're going to throw out a couple of extra thoughts. You may know about this agile philosophy. It's kind of came out of the software development world, but it's really applicable in kind of any kind of change you want to make. So the agile philosophy looks at figuring out ways to accelerate, not by pushing harder. We all have limited time. That's a lot what we've been talking about in the groups, that we have limited time. So it's not about pushing harder or working harder. It's about kind of lowering friction and risk and lowering kind of your inertia so that you can move faster without working harder. One of the key things is the minimum viable product. Sort of looking for something you can try as cheaply as possible. One of the reasons is that if you are going to try something, if you worry too much about whether you're going to fail or not, you're going to keep waiting or you kind of keep trying, kind of to invest in the thinking or the strategy, when really you want to say, okay, I'm going to try something, it might fail, but I'm not going to invest too much. So that's okay. I'm gonna try something. It won't work. I'm gonna move on rather than spending too much time kind of strategizing and thinking about it and investing in protection, when really you should just try and accept that that it might not work. The idea, though, is that if you do try something and it doesn't work, you want to learn from that. So there's a thing called build, measure, learn. Kind of experiment in small batches, keep track of results, refine, and try again. And this is a lot from the Lean Startup by Eric Ries. Next slide. So the idea of an MVP is a minimum viable. It could be a product, it could be a service, minimum viable service, it could be a minimum viable project. It could be just some kind of prototype or something to try. So it doesn't have to be a product per se. If you say, okay, what I really need is a kind of a new marketing effort, or I need to institute a new kind of a new service or offer a new service, or I need to have an extra capability on my team. The idea is to say, okay, what's the minimum I need to do in order to try that out? So define your idea, develop some kind of MVP concept. For example, you might even want to bring somebody on as a staff person. Can you try them out as a freelancer? Again, try it out without much risk. Or if you want to develop a new story or a new marketing pitch, put that pitch into a PDF, send it to somebody and ask them to kind of look it over and see how they respond. So it's a way of testing things with lowering the risk, and thereby kind of lowering the friction, to moving forward. So define your idea, develop some kind of MVP, try it out on just a couple of customers potentially. Try it out as a concept, try it out in terms of actually, doing something for them, try it out, and again, in a low risk way. And then learn something from it, refine your idea, and then keep developing it. So we're calling this the shift cycle. And that's again, a way to kind of accelerate things and move forward more quickly with less risk and less effort. Next slide. So we have a shift cycle tool, and we've distributed that. So we'd ask you to to develop as part of this next session to come up with an idea, describe your MVP, and then think about how you're going to test that. Next slide. So again, before we go into the breakout session, let's do some individual work and think about the different components of your restartup, what you're trying to start. Imagine what you can test with as little investment as possible with the MVP. Think about how you might test it as soon as possible. So MVP ASAP, next week perhaps, and write a 1-minute elevator pitch for your MVP. So, okay, so let's spend 5 minutes on developing that MVP. And again, what can you try out of your startup that you can potentially test next week?